Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all well. So, thought I'd come on this morning, see how everybody is. Yeah, this is off the cuff, but I've been up most of the night, all right? And I went down to see Davy Swift yesterday and been up most of the night because something is not right, all right? And what they usually say, if it looks like shit, if it smells like shit, it probably is shit. All right. And I went down yesterday. Me and Davey done a video. All right. And Davey, you know, he's a chirpy type of guy. He's a character. So I thought we'd done a video together. All right. And Davey's just his normal self. For those who don't know Davey, you know, you could actually turn around and say, oh, he's off his head. But that's Davey's characteristic. He is a lovable guy. He wears his heart on his sleeve. Do anything for anybody. Goes out of his way. So yesterday, when we were there in the hospital, and Davey asked if I would become his next of kin, because he said, I don't believe I've got a next of kin, Clive, at the moment. But, you know, the veterans are phoning. Can you become the go-between? And if I put you down on my list? And I went, yeah, no problem at all. And I said to him, but you've got a problem, Davey. I've got a gut feeling somebody else is already on there, because the reason you're in here is because somebody from the family, you're on the... And he went, nobody could be on the list. And this is where it got a little bit... And for those of you who don't know Dave Swift, Nationwide Bank, all right, he protested outside them. You know, he took a stand. He went down, he drank some coffee outside Nationwide Building Society on Wednesday, got arrested for actually sitting there, all right? He got released midnight, no further action to be taken. So midnight, he decided the next day, on a Thursday, he was going to go back down. So he went back down and he sat outside there again, didn't harass anybody, didn't cause any harm to anybody, and he got arrested again. And he's videoed all this. He's got all the video footage. However, the thing which smells shitty to me is David's son is an inspector in the local police establishment. All right. When they took Davey in the second time, they would have known they had no charges to stick on him. They would have had to release him on actual no further action. So if they released him on no further action, Davey would have been there Friday as well. All right, because that's the type of character he is. At the end of the day, the bank ignored him. Last July, he put a complaint in, and he actually got into the fraud people as instructed, and he lost £400. So he took a stand. He wanted some resolve, and nobody got back to him, and he's left unseen, unheard. So what Davey done? He sat outside the bank or the building society Nationwide, in protest. You know, silent protest we could call it. But Davey's not silent anyway, is he? So, but he's a characterist. He's got a big character. So anyway, yesterday I said to Davey, as the nurse went, I said, Davey, your son is on as your, what they call it is your nearest relative. And he went, no, I haven't spoken to him in 7-10 years. We don't have a good relationship. We don't get on. And I said, well, you're in here for a reason. You're embarrassing the police force, because every time they're picking you up, you know, and your son, even though you're blood related, you don't get on, your son is still a police inspector. So it's embarrassing. And he went, I can see that. And then all of a sudden the nurse come back and she went, yes. And she said the name of the person on the nearest relative. And she said the name of his son was down as the nearest relative. And the son actually, they've had wrote on the documents, son and father have not been in contact in 7 years. They they don't get on, we need to find and appoint a new nearest relative, next of kin. So Davy looked at me and went, why is he my nearest relative? See, and this is where it gets a little bit shitty now, because you can only detain somebody under Section 2, all right, if they have a mental disorder. And we've all got mental disorders, because mental health, all right, depression, all right, bipolar, yeah, bipolar can be genetic, but manic depression, all right, it's all to do with life stresses. And what triggered Davy's, if you want to go down that avenue and you want to argue with me, what triggered Davy was that £400 in the bank ignoring him, all right, and his mind was going, no, this is wrong, and he stood his ground, and because he spoke up and stood his ground, all right, his stress levels would have, yeah, but he didn't hurt anybody. So that goes on to the next one. You can be detained. You need to be detained for a short time for assessment or possibly medical treatment. Well, Davy doesn't want the medical treatment, but they're giving it to him anyway. So he's got no choice on that. So his powers have been taken away as well, because he's been detained in a mental health hospital. But the last one, and don't forget now, risk assessment. No, they can detain him. It is necessary for your own health and safety or for the protection of other people. Look, anybody who knows Davy knows Davy's bark is bigger than his bite, all right? And if, look, as a health and safety professional, do you really think if I thought Davy was at risk or other people were at risk, I would stand beside him and sit beside him, all right, and support him this way? Big question is, who's done the risk assessment, all right? The people don't even know. They even said yesterday, the doctors don't even assess him. The way the assessments are done is it's going to be done over Zoom on Monday. They've already got the mental health advocate lined up from Mind, all right? And I've asked if I can join in there and be with David, because at the moment David's got nobody in that hospital beside him, and I want to ask questions, because you can't just go and section somebody as easy as flicking your fingers, all right? They're doing it over Zoom, all these things. It used to be face to face. You need to get that interaction to find out. But under Section 4 of the Mental Health Act, all right, it says an emergency application may be made either by an approved mental health professional. So that's a mental health professional who's sitting with you and going, oh, he needs to be sectioned, all right? But they brought 3 psychiatric doctors into the police cells. And what, you know, I'm only getting what Davy says, and Davy says to me, and I believe Davy, I trust Davy with my life. And he said, you know, the one he didn't get on with straight away. One of them, they didn't hit it off, all right? But it needs to be approved by a medical health professional or by the nearest relative of the patient. And every such application shall include a statement that is urgent necessity for the patient to be admitted and detained under Section 2 above, all right? And the compliance with the provision part of this act relating to application. So my biggest question is that was happening so quick. Was it his son? All right. A patient may be admitted to hospital detained. This is Section 2, admission for an assessment. A patient may be detained, be admitted to hospital and detained there for a period allowed by subsection 4, which is down further, and that's 28 days. All right. Below persistent of an application. In this act, referred to an application for admission for assessment made in accordance with subsection 2. All right. An application for admission for assessment may be made in respect of a patient on the grounds that he is suffering from a mental disorder, of a nature or degree which warrants the detention of the patient in a hospital for assessment, he ought to be so detained in the interest of his own health and safety, or the view to the protection of other persons. An application for admission for assessment shall be founded on a written recommendations in a prescribed form of 2 medical practitioners, include in each case a statement that, in the opinion of the practitioner, the conditions set out in subsection. All right. So it doesn't make sense, because look, in November 2019, the police tried to section me for taking my own life, for being violent. All right. And I sat in front of a psychiatric doctor and a social worker. They actually stood up and shook my hand. And then they said to the police, "You've got no chance sectioning him." And, you know, you look at the video yesterday when the bank Nationwide phoned him yesterday and admitted they were the underlying cause for him being in there. All right. And they admitted ignoring him. However, Davey's still in the mental health hospital. I went there last night and spoke to him and sat with him. So questions have got to be asked you. Has the son stepped in because the police are being embarrassed? Because Davey, every time he gets arrested, every time he's down there, he's on live footage. Davey's got cameras on him all the time. So he's on live footage, he's streaming. What an embarrassment that must be to his son and the organisation, the police. So the only way they can to actually shut him up is detain him and putting him in a mental health hospital. Davey has got routines. I went there yesterday. He didn't get a razor yesterday. There's no wash bags there. He's only got 1 set of clothing. All right. Treated like an animal. This veteran, and I'll say it again, this veteran who goes out of his way and protests for other veterans who are unheard and unseen, all right, is being treated like a dog. Yesterday, I phoned him up and he said, "Clive, I can't even get a razor." And I actually took razors in for him. If they were concerned about his well-being, if they were concerned about the protection of other persons and his own health and safety, they wouldn't have actually given him a razor yesterday to have a shave. They wouldn't give him a razor, and they wouldn't let him. Actually, the nurses are he's engaging with everybody, and you know, they won't give him the implements because he potentially could go and hang himself with the stuff he's got. All right, he could cut himself, he could do a lot of things. So why is he in there? That's the question I asked, was why is he here? And this is the type of character Dave is. I bought him loads of chocolate and crisps, and he'll give it away to the inpatients because he loves socializing, he loves interacting with people, and he knows everybody in there. Does that make you insane? Does that make you, have you got a mental disorder? A lot of the psychologists, a lot of the psychiatric doctors and psychiatric nurses, unfortunately, they love giving medicine and tablets out. And when your mind is imagine your mind intoxicated with chemicals. It's, why? Why are you trying to numbing him down? Why? Because Davey is a character. And he's an absolutely brilliant character. And this country, United Kingdom, is built on characters. So why are we... Oh, it must be because he's embarrassing the police force. He's embarrassing his son. So what we'll do, you the nearest relative. Ross, you the nearest relative. I shouldn't have said his name. That slipped out, actually. Sorry about that. You the nearest relative. We can section him. We just need you to start this. This is what may have happened, in my opinion. It smells like shit. It probably is shit. All right. So it's wrong. All right. And the easiest way and the worst thing is to be brought out of detention. All right. It's quite straightforward. The nearest relative can pick up the phone. The nearest relative can have him brought out of there. So the question I got was, why ain't the nearest relative actually, is it in his interest? All right. There is, I'm going to download the fact. I've got the fact sheet here actually. All right. On Mind or Rethink Mental Health, there's a brilliant fact sheet. And we've just downloaded, somebody's just sent it to me, which is absolutely brilliant. And this is what it says. If you're detained under Section 2, if you're detained under Section 2, 3, or 37, you can ask the hospital manager to discharge you. You can apply to a tribunal to appeal your section. All right. You can get free representation from mental health solicitor or at a tribunal, or get help from an independent mental health advocate. Mental health advocate, independent. He's already been appointed for Monday, but he doesn't know anything about it. He doesn't even know what's going on Monday. But I know there's an assessment at 11:30. It's going to be done via Zoom. And potentially, the nurse was brilliant in front of me, in front of Dave yesterday. But last night, she was a bit off. Might be because it was late, or it might be because I was asking questions that she didn't like. I was asking letters. I was asking information, questions that she couldn't answer. Because she then turned around to me and said, yes, Ross is the nearest relative. All right. So, and this is what he says. If you are under Section 2 or 3, your nearest relative, the inspector, the police inspector, his son, can discharge you. But there is a bracket there. But the psychiatrist can prevent this if they think you are dangerous to yourself or others. If you are on Section 2 and you want to appeal, you have to apply to the tribunal within 14 days of being sectioned. So we're going to get on that now. All right. I'm absolutely disgusted. If this is shown as a case that your nearest relative, all right, your nearest relative in a legal term is not the same as the next of kin. Your legal relative or your nearest relative is the person who's potentially got control of your life. So should a police inspector be down as the nearest relative? That's the question I'm going to ask. There's too much of an interest for him to be the nearest relative. All right. So I just want to put that out there today and give everybody an idea of what's going on in my mind, because an opinion shared. All right. I want to see what other people's thoughts are. I'm not an expert in mental health. All right. Not an expert in the law. Anybody out there can help me, because David needs justice. David needs freedom. He shouldn't be locked up like an animal. He's not an animal. He shouldn't be caged like an animal. David's 60, going on this. I think he's 60 this year. All right. I spoke to his mother. His mother's been up all night with worry. His mother is a very elderly woman. She doesn't need these stresses. So enough's enough. All right. Enough's enough. Abusing their powers. People in authority abusing their powers. Got to stop it. That's what it seems like. Okay. So I'll speak to you all later. Have a good day.